Good Friday evening, everyone. Severe Weather Team 9 meteorologist Nathan Shot joining you for this edition of Nate at 8. And what a beautiful end to the work week we had for today. And today, really just a preview in terms of the quiet conditions that we had for the weekend. But some bigger differences, though, certainly warmer overall this weekend and even more sunshine. So you could say the conditions are getting even better as we go throughout the weekend. Certainly a good time to take advantage of this beautiful stretch of weather that we do have in place going into next week. And that does highlight some of what we're going to be talking about for this edition of Nate at 8. Before we do get to that warmer weekend, though, tonight is probably the big story from what we're going to have here over the next few days, because temperatures are going to drop to the extent where some frost is possible. So yes, we will likely fall off quite a lot. We go from the 60s to the 30s likely by tomorrow morning, and it's going to be cold enough to present the possibility for at least patchy frost across the area for tomorrow morning. And while it is dry and warmer this weekend, even into Monday, a wet pattern will return next week. So that's why I say it's a good time to take advantage of this dry weather going into Monday, because while it's not a washout every day, we're getting back to more of a wet, unsettled pattern, likely returning next week, even as early as Tuesday. And that looks to continue then even as we go into the following weekend. So just a word of caution there as we look ahead that we can get back into another wet pattern coming our way. Again, not a washout every day, certainly not, but nonetheless, at least a possibility for a shower thunderstorm on a daily basis for a lot of next week. So jumping into things, looking at where we currently stand for our temperatures right now across the area. Currently reside from the 60s to 50s. Temperatures just starting to drop off with the sunset. Austin joining us this evening on YouTube. Hope they had a wonderful day, and did. This morning was very windy and chilly. It certainly had that chill to the air today, didn't it? Our temperatures 50s to 60s going into this afternoon, but yeah, certainly had a chill to the air for a good portion of today, with a bit of a breeze and our temperatures, climbing just into the 60s. Yeah, I've heard that, definitely feeling that little chill to the air today. Certainly felt cooler, that's for sure. Is it going to be windy this weekend? Likely not, Austin. So we're not likely dealing with much of a wind this weekend, thanks to high pressure in place, keeping our weather quiet, and again warmer as well. So we'll lose that chill to the air that we had for today as we go through the weekend. Of course, the exception, of what we're going to see tonight. The winds are diminishing. The winds are light, so wind chill's not going to be a factor likely tomorrow morning. And if it is, it's a minor factor. The bigger story is just how cold it's going to be altogether. Joe, good evening, joining us here on Facebook. Good evening there, Joe. Hope you had a wonderful Friday. So again, while the chill to the air, we won't be present for these afternoons through the weekend. Again, tonight we will be watching. We've seen this cloud cover clear for this evening. We're seeing those winds start to die down for this evening, and this is a good recipe for these temperatures to drop off. We do have a frost advisory in effect for most of the area. Now, I know that you may be looking at this. You'll see that Tyler County's gray, right? What's going on with Tyler County, right? Why aren't they under the frost advisory? Is it going to be warm enough in those locations? Well, I do think that, the further south into the area we go, further south of I-70, that, the frost can become more isolated. But could we still have some frost in Tyler County? Absolutely, yes. What's going on? Well, Tyler County is under the jurisdiction of the National Weather Service office in Charleston. The remainder of us are under Pittsburgh. So it's a different National Weather Service office. In Pittsburgh, they issued this frost advisory just for their entire coverage area. Charleston not extending it into our area. So it just, sometimes that's the way it is. Thankfully for us, we're covered for most of us are covered under the same National Weather Service office in Pittsburgh. I'll just give you, digress here for just a minute. When I used to work in Zanesville, WHIZ is where I started with my career. And that coverage area in Muskingum County, we had the National Weather Service office in Wilmington. We had Cleveland, we had Pittsburgh, and we had Charleston. And I'll tell you what, sometimes when they would be issuing products between 4 different offices, it gets even more confusing. So thankfully, again, we'll get back on track. Thankfully, at least for us, it's 2 offices. But again, I digress. But if you're wondering why, that's just a brief spiel as to why. But yeah, thankfully for most of us, we're under the National Weather Service office in Pittsburgh. Frost advisory in effect. Again, keep in mind, sensitive vegetation, make sure to cover it up tonight. And then temperatures as they warm tomorrow morning, uncover it as those temperatures will pick pick back up. Some of us may have already got some flowers, right? We want to keep them safe. If you can cover them with a blanket, and then of course make sure to uncover them tomorrow morning. Not anticipating a real heavy frost or killing frost. It's not going to be quite that cold. Temperatures will likely range from low 30s to upper 30s. I think a lot of us can be more mid upper 30s, but some of those cold spots can get closer to freezing, but certainly still potential for some frost. So I do think if you can get out and cover any sensitive vegetation you want to protect, I think that it'll be okay. As long as you can get it covered, protect it overnight, and then uncover it tomorrow morning, you should be okay to protect it from that frost potential for tomorrow morning. And then this is likely going to be it. I do think that this can be it in terms of the frost potential. These temperatures are trending a lot warmer once we get past tomorrow morning. By Sunday, it's 10 degrees warmer for low, and then our low temperatures are even more on par with what our high temperature was for today. And the reasoning, the temperature is much closer together next week. Well, the reasoning, a lot more cloud cover, more rain, that keeps our temperatures closer together when we're dealing with a lot more cloud cover in the forecast. But you'll notice, again, really just highlighting these low temperatures, and even these high temperatures are trending upward for a lot of the next week, just stumbling a bit there when we deal with some more rain in the forecast around next Tuesday and Wednesday. But in general, this is a lot warmer stretch of weather than we have over the next week with respect to what we saw for today and with respect to what we're going to see for tomorrow morning. Renee says, I put my plants in the garage. That sounds great. Will St. Clair's will have frost? Yes, could very well have some frost, Renee, waking up tomorrow morning. And that potential is there, I think, really across the area. All of us have that potential to see some frost. It's going to be more patchy in nature, but I do think that potential is there across the region. So yes, we all have the potential to wake up to some frost for tomorrow morning. But again, after this, temperatures really pick up. And even as we look at that long range forecast, even as we're extending past the middle of this month, getting into the next couple of weeks, even a couple weeks out, there's still good potential for some above normal temperatures. Now, as we get in the very tail end of this month, right at the end of May into the beginning of June, yes, we can trend a little cooler with respect to the next couple of weeks. We can see a flip back to at least more seasonable temperatures, the 3 to 4 week forecast favoring more seasonable temperatures there right at the very end of this month. But, we're really nearing that time where we've typically are dealing with that last frost of the season. On average, we do see it going into the middle of May. So, we're getting to getting on par with where we typically see our last frost. We're also looking at a warm pattern in the next couple of weeks. And really the odds, once we start to get to the end of, towards the end of May, beginning of June, it's happened. It has happened before. We've had some frost before at that late into the season, the end of May and early June. So, I won't say it's not possible. It's just that the odds are low. The odds are favoring that this is going to be the last likely frost potential that we have, with a warm pattern the next couple of weeks, and just the fact that it's very rare for us to deal with frost at the end of May and the beginning of June. So looking good in terms of, if you want to get out and do some planning over the weekend into Monday, outside of a very rare event, I think towards the end of May and early June, outside of a rare event, I should be good to go in terms of planning at this point. Austin says, had ever reached the 90s in the Ohio Valley during May? Oh, well, yes, I'm sure it has, Austin. I don't know the specifics on what days and exactly how warm, but yes, I'm sure it has. And in fact, we're really, as temperatures pick up next week, we're really not far from it. Even going to the latter part of next week, we're climbing well in the 80s. So yes, we've had our share fair of 90s in the Ohio Valley, but unfortunately I don't have specifics to share in terms of how many and how exactly high in the 90s we were, the dates. But yes, positive that yes, we have. All right. So our future cast as we go through the weekend, this is just a gorgeous stretch of weather that we do have in place, and barely a cloud in sight really as we go through the weekend. There could be maybe a few more clouds in the mix Saturday night into Sunday, but just a gorgeous stretch of weather. Our temperatures climb mid-lower 70s by the time we do get into Saturday afternoon. Then by the time we get into Sunday, we're mid-upper 70s. So we're further into the 70s this weekend, and then not as cold Sunday morning. It's more chilly than cold. Those lows about 10 degrees warmer, roughly, with respect to like what we're waking up to tomorrow morning by the time we get into Sunday morning. Now, when things are going to start to change is by Monday. still anticipating dry conditions. There is a slight chance for a shower, but I do think the rain, for the most part, is holding off Monday. But we can see some move in as early as Monday night, and then we're dealing with scattered showers throughout the day Tuesday. So it does look like the bulk, if all of this rain holds off Monday, but at that point, we're seeing an increase in cloud cover. So we're starting to notice those changes on Monday. By Tuesday, then, we flip the switch. We're back to more of an unsettled pattern. To this point, we're dealing with scattered showers Tuesday, scattered showers and thunderstorms Wednesday. And these rain chances, they're not equal every single day for next week, but just note how the precipitation threat picks up and notice how there's at least a chance for precipitation on a daily basis. So is this a washout every day next week? No, but do we have a chance to see at least a shower, thunderstorm in our area almost every day next week? Yes, it does look like that. So that's why I want to reiterate the fact that, this is a great opportunity to take advantage of the dry weather, catch up on some yard work. I know that was hard to do at the beginning of this month with how wet it was before we get back into an unsettled pattern. There's still likely some dry times to be had for these days, looking ahead next week. Not to say we can't do any yard work during that stretch. It's just that at least, at that point, we have to keep in mind that we may have to dodge some rain on a daily basis. So, and it's unfortunate to get back to that wet pattern later next week. But at least for here, the near term, we get this nice stretch of weather into Monday where dry conditions will likely hold before those showers return. And we're warming up into Monday. Highs will be closer to 80, then a little bit of a cool down then into Tuesday and Wednesday, then right back in the 80s. And by Friday, we're likely well in the 80s. We're Austin, not too far from the 90 mark, likely even into the latter part of next week. And if we were to trend dry enough, if we see that rain hold on Friday, maybe even getting closer to 90. But as it stands now with that rain, scattered showers and thunderstorms potentially in the forecast there, it can keep us under that threshold or even near that threshold. It can keep us under that. A little bit of a cool down then looks to follow into that following weekend, next Saturday, into next Sunday and next Monday when we can fall back in the 70s. But this is still, you'll notice no 60s, right? Like what we had for today. This is a warmer pattern. Once we get past tomorrow morning, these are warmer temperatures likely for even the next couple of weeks. So that likely even takes us through the middle of May. And yes, as we start to look out past a couple weeks towards the end of the month, maybe at that point we can get into a cooler stretch as we look ahead at the end of the month. But at least here near term, this looks to be a warm overall stretch of weather for this time of the year. Some of these days, some of these days aren't straying too far from the normal highs, which are climbing the lower 70s this time of the year. But, this is overall a warm pattern. I think it comes out overall warm over the next couple of weeks. Terry says, hey, how's it going? It's going well, Terry. How are you? Thanks for tuning in this evening with us for this edition of Nate at 8 on this Friday evening. All of us enjoying that beautiful weather that we had for today. And I'm sure that you're joining me in excitement of how beautiful it's going to be over the next couple of days and going into Monday as well. Just a gorgeous stretch of weather. Again, definitely a good time to take advantage of this dry weather, at least the weather, there's no threat for rain at all. At least we'll take that, enjoy it while we can, because looking ahead again, at least there's a chance for showers and thunderstorms on a daily basis for a lot of next week. And again, if you're just now tuning in, keep in mind tonight, we have that frost advisory in effect across our area. 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. If you have that sensitive vegetation that you've already planted, if you have flowers outside in a planter, if it's mobile, take it inside for the night, right? But if not, go out, cover it up with a blanket, and I think everything will be just fine if you can get it covered tonight, uncovered tomorrow morning, and then we should be good to go. Temperatures in the 30s tomorrow morning, and from here for the foreseeable future over the next 10 days, once we get past tomorrow, we're not anticipated to drop back into the 30s with a warm pattern in place. And I think our odds to dip down to the mid 30s after tomorrow morning is rare. I think our odds are not high at all. I think it's a low chance that we're going to be dealing with temperatures this cold again for the remainder of this month, as it's not, it's possible. We've been that cold at the end of May and beginning of June. It's just rare for us. And with a warm pattern in place the next couple of weeks, the odds certainly favor that this is going to be it for us with the potential for frost tomorrow morning. Joe says, have a great weekend. You as well. Thanks so much for tuning in, Joe. Have a great weekend as well. Just enjoying the weather. Good mowing weather. Yes, Terry. Monday. And I don't know about some of you tuning in, but yeah, it's finally catching up on some of that yard work with as wet as it was here for the beginning of May. It was hard to get out and get some yard work done, but thankfully this is a great stretch to do so. Great weekend to celebrate our mothers as well, right? Mother's Day weekend, and a good weekend to maybe make some outdoor plans for Mother's Day. Just a beautiful stretch of weather in general into Monday. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have had a wonderful Friday. I hope you have a wonderful night and a great weekend. Of course, to make sure to stay tuned. Coming up, News 9 at 10 on Fox 9, News 9 tonight at 11 for the latest. And stay tuned with Severe Weather Team 9 meteorologist Amanda Varia throughout the weekend. I'll be back then on Tuesday. So we won't be having a Nate at 8 on Monday. Amanda will be in, but you can catch me coming up on Tuesday. That's when we'll have that next edition of Nate at 8 right on cue with that wet pattern returning. So we'll have a lot to discuss, I'm sure. So definitely make sure to stay tuned for that next edition of Nate at 8 on Tuesday. Up until that point, have a wonderful weekend. And I guess we include have a wonderful Monday as well. Good night.